10,000 years later, I became my own teacher, and gave me 460,000 unique techniques. In this world, where the highest level of martial arts is only level 6, all my techniques were created by level 11 experts. It also perfectly matches the 3 systems of body training, breathing and spirit. I've only been practicing for 1 day, then a peerless genius for nearly 100 years. But even if I had this incredible ability, and still being called crap by his classmates, even the teacher asked me to work on the construction site after graduation. But I knew I wouldn't be hired to move bricks from a construction site, because it takes 0.8 blood gas to move bricks, but my blood gas is a measly 0.7. So that I can have a good start in society. My father got up early and worked 5 odd jobs, just to make money to buy me pills to replenish my blood. That leads to dozens of plasters every day. And I feel terrible about it. I have to break through 0.85 as soon as possible to graduate smoothly. Back in the room, I quickly adjusted my breathing. The second set of national radio gymnastics, the rising sun, begin. This is a physical technique developed by today's experts, can lay a solid foundation for beginners. But I did radio gymnastics 3 times in a row. My blood gas levels are still solid. Think of your parents and sister who are suffering. Unwilling to accept, I decided to practice again. I forgot how many times I practiced, until consciousness begins to blur. And when I woke up again, I found myself in ruins. This is the 9th time I've entered this dream. Just when I was trying to pinch myself awake, a dead skin came at me fiercely. Fortunately, I reacted in time to avoid the fatal impact. Looking at the zombie's ferocious appearance, 0.7 blood gas levels. I'm completely furious. You dare to be fierce in my dream. I kick the door out. Then pick up a brick next to it. I use the funeral home to practice the random brick hammer method. Finally, after 9981 strikes, the mortars were completely silent. But suddenly, there was a smell coming from the deceased. The next moment, countless black fog entered my body. Suddenly my head felt like it was about to crack open. Strange images appeared in my mind. It's the memory of the deceased. Guard. Kun body tempering art. Breathing formula. Alien attack. It also includes a lot of combat skills and experience. All of this made me feel a little overwhelmed. But then a green-eyed bereaved man appeared behind me, and my body moved on its own in an instant. And when I come to my senses again, the bereaved have fallen before me. As before, the black mist from the deceased entered my body again. But this time it didn't give me a splitting headache. It's about getting my blood pumping. This ability has hit me hard inside. If I keep killing mourners, I'll be invincible. And then I remembered it was just a dream. If only it weren't a dream. But somehow I feel like it's all too real. I immediately decided to set out for base 1359. It's a place frequently mentioned in the memory of the deceased. Maybe I can find the truth about my dreams there. But then the sky began to crumble. It's like a giant hand shaking this space-time. I woke up on the floor of my room. It was the sister outside the door knocking loudly. I didn't notice the wet clothes opening the door. He replied that he had just overworked and slept. My sister was surprised to see my figure. I wonder when my brother became so strong. Then he turned around and told me to go out to dinner. And it just got me mixed up. When I was young, I was still very attached to you. But since the first blood gas test came back, her attitude towards me changed. After all, her blood gas has exceeded 1.0. The combat effectiveness index is directly over 100. Even key martial arts schools can be easily guaranteed. It's normal to hate a useless brother like me. Suddenly, I noticed myself in the mirror. I just finished so many sets of radio gymnastics. But now I feel energized. Not only that, even the battle memories in my dreams are clear. Then I came to the table pretending nothing had happened. But today I have an unusually good appetite. He ate up the whole day's food at home. Just when I was embarrassed to take back my job. Father was so excited that he asked his mother to cook another table, because eating often means absorbing, and decided to buy me some more blood pills tomorrow. But the sister on the side made up the knife. You're 18. Don't expect anything. After listening, The father blamed his sister for being ignorant. Half a point in the college entrance examination can wipe out tens of thousands of people, and I'm a little distracted right now. To test my hypothesis, I decided to go to the martial arts school to test my blood gas. As soon as I walked into the front desk of the martial arts school, I was warmly welcomed, knowing I was just here to test blood gas. Just let me go inside mechanically, please, and I'm used to this kind of awkward situation. Soon I was in the test room. This outcome will affect my future destiny. So I nervously put my hand on the crystal ball. As an energy poured into my body, a blinding light shone from the crystal ball. My blood gas is 0.9. I thought to myself, if my sister is one in a million geniuses, and what kind of monster am I now? And then, I wanted to test myself. After all, the blood gas value only represents the physical quality, but I've combined a lifetime's worth of experience from two great men. How much combat power can this fork test? So I gathered all my strength and smashed it into the instrument. My combat power has reached an astonishing 112, and by the standards of this world, the blood gas standard of a level 2 martial artist is 15. Combat power is 1500. Yeah, my strength exceeded the limit of my vitality. And that's just for one day. If you sleep for 3 days and 3 nights, you'll go to heaven. But the more I try to sleep, the more I feel. I didn't expect sleep to have a cooling mechanism. I had no choice but to get up and exercise again. I didn't know when I was about to start the rising sun. The memory of the lost house in the dream reappeared. My body unconsciously made strange movements. This is the long-lost radio gymnastics. Miracles are calling. This exercise is a million times better than what they teach in school. I just need to make every move. The power will obviously flow into my body. I'm only halfway through gymnastics. It's already far more effective than my years of practice. But just when I wanted to practice all night, but I was swept away by a strong hunger. I immediately realized I was undernourished. Due to the rapid increase in blood gas levels, the energy supply for ordinary meals has been exhausted. But with my family's income, I can't afford my expensive pills. I guess I'll have to earn my own money. The only thing I can think of right now is a scholarship. So I decided to stop hiding my true strength. I didn't expect to have a chance the next day. Practice class. The teacher is passionately teaching fighting skills. From little Fatty, I learned that my teacher is a Tier 2 martial artist. I've been on the battlefield and fought with exotic beasts. The scar on his arm is a badge of honor. The students were full of admiration for the teacher. But in my opinion, having mastered the best fighting techniques, the teacher's fighting skills are too superficial. Soon, a set of combat techniques was completed. The teacher called out the tall, rich and handsome in the class to demonstrate, but the students all know that the teacher is biased guidance. Later, in order to let Liu Yifei further study, I'm going to pick a classmate to be a sparring partner. But the students at the bottom are afraid to look up. After all, Liu Yifei's blood gas had already broken through 1.2. Anyone who goes up to practice with him can only be the second. The teacher looked at the students, who had no blood, and was very disappointed. I know you guys are always saying I'm biased. But now you don't even have the courage to stand up. Who knew that as soon as he finished speaking, he met my eyes? That sharp look surprised the teacher. Teachers who have been to war know. This is actually the aura that only experience fighting, so he asked me to step forward. The whole class doesn't like me. After all, I'm the class's most notorious loser, but I replied confidently. I worked out all day. In the confusion of my classmates, I walked up. Liu Yifei began to lecture me constantly, taught me to protect all parts. Then he punched me directly. Liu Yifei used all his strength in this attack. Everyone gasped. Just when Liu Yifei was full of confidence, his punch missed. And now I'm just bending over. The blood in the fist is constantly condensing, and I've been suppressing this for 18 years. And smashed it right into this tall, rich, handsome guy's face, and sent him flying for hundreds of meters. This scene made the students and teachers not react. Then everyone was shocked into a cold sweat. A school-wide loser, competing to blow up a super genius with one punch. But just as my classmates were admiring me, the teacher called me into the office. Turns out the teacher suspected me of using contraband. Not only do I have to test the blood gas on site and match my combat effectiveness index, I'm confident about that, because I'm not yesterday's 0.7 anymore. So I put my hand on it without a word. With a brilliant blue light, the screen actually showed an amazing 1.5. The teacher saw the gift and stood up. An 18-year-old level 1 fighter is considered a genius in the whole city. But before the teacher knew it, and I punched the next combat instrument, who knew I was too strong. The instrument was blown away by my fist and broke the teacher's love-potted plant. Wait until the teacher comes to his senses. He realized something. That device can withstand even martial artists' attacks. That means I'm stronger than a martial artist. Then the teacher asked me when was the last time I took the test. I answered honestly that it was half a month ago. And when he found out I was born into a civilian family, he looked at me differently. Once upon a time, he learned one thing from the battlefield. That is, ordinary martial artists simply cannot defeat those monsters in the face of that unreasonable power. A warrior's power is as small as dust. Until one day, he was rescued by a top fighter. He just realized something. Is that the only thing that can defeat monsters is another group of monsters. They've moved beyond the human realm. And here I am, about to join that ranks. The teacher immediately took a long breath. He decided to transfer me to the top class. Only a teacher in the top class can teach me. But I said no as soon as I finished. I don't need a teacher to train in my dreams. The teacher saw me so determined. Asked me if I have any problems. I immediately made two demands. The first is that I want to apply for a scholarship. The teacher listened and agreed. As a monster, you do have the right to do so. The teacher took out a black card and handed it to me. Scholarship applications take time. Take this 100,000 and use it first. Then he told me not to neglect my cultivation. But I just walked out of the office. The teacher was excited and slammed the table. One of his students is a monster. He has the strength of a level 2 martial artist before he is 18. How scary he's gonna be on the SATs. I'm gonna have to report this to the authorities. And after all these years, finally, someone can get to that place. I didn't go to class when I got 100,000 on the other side. Instead, he went to the mall to buy supplements. Remember yesterday I was just a mediocre student. There are people like me all over the world. I yearn for the incredible world of martial artists. In the end, I could only live without doing anything, but now I've got a chance at a new life. I'm not gonna make the wrong choice this time. I didn't stop when I got home, and immediately went back to the dream. This time I decided to investigate the truth of the dream. Go to base 1359 in your memory. But when I enter the dream again, but it's surrounded by a lot of dead people. Fortunately, I'm already a level 1 warrior. A punch can kill a zombie baby again. Finally, after running for half a day, a huge base appeared in front of me. The walls alone are 20 meters thick. Then a central building caught my attention, because there seems to be a figure sitting inside. On closer inspection, it was actually a sword immortal. Who knew it would only be a second? The mummified man opened his eyes. Suddenly a strong pressure came over me. I was so scared, I broke out in a cold sweat. I knew right away it wasn't a place I could get close to. And then I turned around and looked elsewhere for clues. After searching for a while, I came to an ordinary house. Just as I was leaving, a nearby instrument suddenly lit up. Curious, I pressed it. After a series of system sounds, a holographic girl appeared in front of me. Welcome to Tianhing Technology. I'm AI, responsible for controlling base server management. Such high-tech methods caught my interest. I immediately asked her to pull up the latest news. L shows Skynet connection failed. Connection to offline database failed. And with AI's orders, A lot of relevant information pops up one by one. As I flipped through it, I found that the world was not only technologically advanced. Even in terms of martial arts, there are 10 realm experts. In reality, the highest level of strength is only 6 levels. However, even with such a terrifying level of combat power, but he's still vulnerable to powerful exotic beasts. In just 1 year, this civilization disappears from this world. I am very sad in my heart, thinking maybe by learning from their experiences, to avoid tragedy in my world. And then I asked AI to pull up world history. But when I read the message, I suddenly felt like I was surrounded by a great fear, and I froze in place. No wonder the language in this world is the same as in real life. Even the classification of martial artists is the same, because this is the history of the real world. And what I just saw, it's not the story of another world, but the real world, 10,000 years into the future. The truth is hard for me to swallow. Suddenly, another possibility occurred to me. Find me a human profile right now. I can see the future 10,000 years in my dreams. You could also find your own life history. But what came out made me speechless. I'm only 28 years old. And he's never done anything in his life. Unwilling, I looked up the information of my genius sister again, but AI says I don't have enough clearance. I need access to a genetic blood sample. AI bit my finger. Sudden scene made me forget why holograms have entities. Who knew that just as I was sighing, AI, who got my blood sample, looks like a card machine. The whole body is constantly showing failure reminders. The next moment, her eyes widened. Human DNA was detected in the blood sample. Project Tinder activated. I didn't have time to think about what it was. I found my basic information. Bai He Wu has changed again. Not only do I look more mature, even his strength has become a 4th-level martial artist. That's pretty much what's going to happen to me. And if you look closely at your resume, I'll graduate first in school this year. Will join the military district after the year. Finally died at the age of 37. Outstanding contribution is only a humble 2-star. In the scroll of history, even ripples are not counted. But I quickly realized that there were flaws in the data, even though they followed the same path until they were 18. However, the information after the college entrance examination is obviously problematic. If you practice without dreams, maybe that's all I can do. But at the rate I'm training, what's a mere 23rd place in the city? My future will be heard all over the world. If the future of mankind is going to end, then I'm gonna be the one who changes history. I am the fire. It will burn. I immediately asked AI to call up all the techniques in the past 10,000 years. Who knew that 460,000 secret scripts would pop up? There's no way to start. Soon after my constant screening, finally, the best 3 cultivation methods were selected. They were all created by a level 11 expert. The first stellar body tempering technique can transform the human body into a miniature universe, constantly condensing every cell of the body. Turn every cell into a superstar. If the efficiency of gymnastics in the past is, then the efficiency of the stellar body tempering technique is 1000. Then I tested the second natural breathing method. I just took one breath. I feel like there are countless flames burning all over my body. Even my blood was boiling. And I was pleasantly surprised. It can also drive the practice of the stellar body tempering technique. And the last one is crystal vision. It involves the most mysterious spiritual part of martial arts. It's supposed to strengthen your will. And sure enough, when I open my eyes again, I'm already in the spirit world. Before me is a giant soul. But I don't know exactly how to practice it. But just when I was at my wit's end, a huge tiredness woke me up. I didn't expect that in just a few minutes of practice. Then if I'd been working out for hours in real life, then a foul smell entered my nose. It's the impurities forced out of the body after cultivation. Sure enough, the effects of dreams affect the real world. But even so, I'm not satisfied. I've decided to pick up my scholarship tomorrow, because I didn't just bring back the technique and world-changing pills. And then I found a drugstore in the middle of nowhere. Shingen asked the staff to rent the pharmacy to me temporarily. I'll process the herb step by step the way we'll do in the future. I didn't expect to make a finished product the first time. And then I realized something was wrong. A powerful energy instantly merged into my body. The meridians in his body seemed to be about to burst open. But fortunately, the previous body refinement formula exhausted my blood essence, so I don't end up exploding on the spot. And I found out that it not only replenishes blood gases, it's actually mixed with hundreds of whitening and moisturizing abilities. But then, there was a rapid knock on the door. It's the store that rents my distribution room. The employee is blonde. At this time, the yellow hair looked anxious and asked me to leave quickly. The manager will be back soon. I didn't even have time to pack up in my hurry, pick up the prescription and run. Sure enough, the manager walked in as soon as I left, but at this point, she doesn't look good. It turns out that their He family was originally the largest enterprise in the pharmaceutical industry, but with the rapid development of martial arts, old prescriptions are being phased out. But He's family is declining because of its adherence to the rules, and now it's about to close. This time, she went to the next city to buy the prescription, but I ran into a wall everywhere, and had to come back early. But as soon as he walked in, the manager noticed something strange. Not only were the clothes covered in powder, even the blood in the mixing room is a mess. As she grew impatient, suddenly the nearby instrument caught her attention. This method of treating scales is unheard of. But she didn't care, thought it was another attempt to get rich overnight, even though she thinks it's another flop. But she couldn't resist picking up the potion on the ground. But when she looked closely, she was dumbfounded. This combination doesn't fit the pharmaceutical principle. Can miracles really happen? So she took a sip of her imaginary hope. For a moment, she felt like she had opened up a new world. She's catching up to the yellow guy who got fired. Keep asking for my contact number. I didn't expect to be tempted by double pay in the end. Yellow hair actually handed over my mobile phone. And here I am, coming home from my meds. The first thing I did was train like crazy, with a top-of-the-line soup mix. My stellar body refinement technique seems to have been activated. Soon the first stars were formed. And then the manager called. Although the store manager is full of sincerity, but I offered to wait a week. Right now, my priority is still cultivation. Days passed quickly. I forgot how much stronger I was. So I decided to go to the dojo to test again. As the crystal ball lights up again, I become a level 2 warrior with 15 points of blood chi. And before graduation, a first-level martial artist is already a genius. But now I'm 10 times more talented. Although not unexpected. But it still makes me happy. And then I started testing my combat power. I'm just going around. Combat power index as high as 3,000 points, twice the normal blood gas limit. But that's not my limit. I immediately adjusted my breathing carefully. Use Stellar Blast Fist. The next second, the meter reads 150,000 combat power, but I'm too powerful to say anything. Because I know how big trees attract wind. You know, even the greatest genius of today's families can only unleash twice as much combat power. So I said hello to my sister. He decided to leave the school immediately. But then 2 people walked past me. One of them is the curator's daughter in Aishuang. She's got her little brother next to her. I saw the lady at the front desk looking at me with a crazy face. Junior brother immediately showed a disdainful expression. In this world, martial arts is everything. Children from ordinary families. No matter how many tests you try, it's useless. And Aishuang glanced at her junior brother unhappily. Understand that although what he said was rude, it was true. Junior brother grew up eating all kinds of supplements. There are many elders teaching martial arts at home. In the face of ordinary people, there is indeed a proud confidence. At the thought of this, Aishuang taught her junior brother with one punch. It's better to practice hard than to have this time. And there's a lot of talent in ordinary families. Junior brother, although you listen to me verbally, but deep down, I'm still not convinced. I immediately wanted to check my test scores. And Aishuang had no choice but to agree, and tell him not to be too complacent after reading it. He said he took the tablet from the front desk lady. Don't look. It's okay. And I Shuang was so shocked that she could not speak. Junior brother fell to the ground after reading it. And I Shuang quickly asked if there was something wrong with the instrument. But the receptionist told me that the instrument had just been checked, which means this score is definitely okay. But that's not where it should be. Not, should or should not be in this world. And I Shuang immediately asked all employees to stop working, whatever it takes to get information on this student. And I didn't know anything about it when I got home. After understanding his own strength, I decided to explore dreams further. And then I took 2 steps. A 4th-grade bereaved man blocked his way. The smell alone is depressing. But the next minute, I didn't hesitate to rush out. Who knew that as soon as I got close, I saw a giant hand approaching. I tried to block them with my hands. An instant, intense tingling of the afferent nerve. I immediately realized that you can't take it hard, and soon more terrible attacks came. But this time I'm not careless. He dodged his attack in a flash. And then he kicked the zombie's head hard. Before the mourners could stand up again, I've already jumped high and concentrate the power of the stars on their feet. A single blow will make the deceased fall to the ground. As the zombie body slowly dissipates, a black gas entered my body. Memories of the deceased are awakened again. It turns out he was a level 5 fighter when he was alive. Finally died on the front line because of the Beast Protection City. If I hadn't lost my arms and my mind, I'm definitely no match for the current me. Thinking of this, I bowed deeply to the mourners. From generation to generation, the spirit will never die. When I woke up, I didn't hesitate, decided to go to the Warrior Association to complete the Warrior Assessment. Only by passing the test can you obtain official recognition. Just approaching the association gate, a young man in red rushed out crying. From the words of the 2 people next to him, it turns out that the equipment outside is not precise enough, resulting in lower grades in the association. To pass the exam, you have to have a higher number. I'm looking forward to hearing that. This will make my strength more accurate. Then I went to the front desk and checked in. The receptionist asked me to go to the exam room to prepare myself. I thought the test would be like the martial arts school. I didn't expect to be stunned as soon as I entered the examination room. The number of people assessed is very similar to the train station for the Spring Festival. The whole exam room is crowded. I had no choice but to start observing the people next to me, and I found that most of the people in the queue were around 25 years old. A young girl stands out. But before I knew it, another figure walked in at the door. The height alone is close to 3 meters. I saw that he ignored the crowd in line. Walked directly to the assessment area. Just one finger can make a person move directly across, and it quickly became a source of resentment. Cursed the big guy for not having quality, and let the staff out to maintain order. Who knows, after the staff looked at the information, Jing just said he had the right. Because the big guy is actually participating in the level 3 martial artist assessment. The noise rose from the crowd as soon as these words were spoken. The older sister just dropped her index finger directly. The boyfriend behind is silent, vomiting blood. In this world, where the highest level of martial arts is only level 6, there are only a dozen level 3 martial artists in White River City, and the strong tend to get better treatment. Soon the big guy went straight to the tester. The first step is to test the blood gas. As the light from the crystal ball lit up, the number 107 is displayed on the instrument. The noise in the crowd rose again. It's the first time they've seen a blood gas breakthrough. The staff then announced the start of the combat effectiveness test. It was like a hurricane blowing through the place. Everyone present was barely able to stand. When the wind stabilizes, the number 10,831 immediately appeared on the screen. The staff announced on the spot that the big test was successful. Congratulations on becoming a level 3 fighter in White River City. But the big guy suddenly turned around and looked. I felt 2 young people standing against the wind on the set. I didn't know that one of the girls had heart palpitations. The wind alone makes it hard to stand. But what I said was unbelievable. I feel the big guy's full strength. It turns out that level 3 martial artists are only at this level. And now, before anyone gets their morale back, I offered to take the test myself. The staff appreciated my composure. agreed to my proposal immediately. Soon the crystal ball lit up again. The screen shows blood gas index 15. What the hell? This vein is full of tonic, right? And then, to everyone's surprise, I slowly walked to the combat effectiveness test equipment. The staff immediately came forward and opened the small door for me. Let me test it as many times as I want. I thanked you on the spot, but no. Under the puzzled gaze of the staff, the two heaven-defying techniques in my body were activated at the same time, and the next moment, I'm going to use my own stellar explosion. Suddenly, the scene seemed to have arrived in the universe. At this time, everyone in the field stared blankly at the screen, were rendered speechless by the horror of the sight. With a click, the protective wall behind the instrument is directly broken. Then an even stronger hurricane blew through the scene. 15709's combat power rating on the screen. The staff who reacted immediately became confused. Announced that I have successfully passed the Level 1 Martial Artist assessment, but that's way above his pay grade. He needs to report his grades to his superiors immediately. Bet your career on it. And he'll give me a satisfactory explanation. Watch the staff run away. I just remembered that I haven't received my first-class certificate yet. Suddenly a tall figure silently came behind me. I also sensed who it was. That's the big guy who passed Level 3. And suddenly the big guy held out his right hand to me. After the introduction, he wanted to make friends with me. I immediately reached out my hand. Understand the truth of many friends and many roads. Little did he know that the big guy was crazy and happy. At the level I'm showing you right now, he's gonna be a big shot. Everyone at the scene also reacted at this time. Rushed up to me and offered to shake my hand for a picture. In front of such a crazy crowd, I'm just gonna run. He quickly ran out of the Martial Arts Association. However, at this time, not far from the entrance of the association, Sister Lu Qinghe and her classmates are waiting for someone, and I found myself striding out of the association. I also found my sister not far away. I was just about to say hello to my sister. My sister would mock me for being in the association. Don't you usually sleep at home at this time? I was a little embarrassed when I heard that. After all, I do practice in dreams every day, but it's a secret I've never shared with anyone. She thinks I'm still that 0.7 blood chicken. At this moment, Fan, my sister's classmate, stood up, explained that they are waiting here for their seniors, and he said I was very handsome. It's not like what Qinghe said. The younger sister immediately showed an angry expression, cursed classmates for forgetting their righteousness. I'm their old mother at school. I watched my sister and her classmates get along so well. He reached out and rubbed his sister's hair and left first. At this time, their senior also walked out. And that made them nervous. Sister, tell them it's not what they think. It was an accident on the exam. The assessment was forced to stop. The reason is because a monster appeared in the assessment. 15.7 blood gas at just 18 years old. The combat power value directly exceeds the level 3 martial artist. This terrifying number also made everyone gasp. Fan quickly asked the name of the person. I know that. His name is Lu Sheng. Everyone looked at Lu Qinghe. After hearing about it, the president of the Martial Arts Association, excited to pick up the secretary and make a love circle. It turns out that the president has no hope of breaking through to level 7 Grandmaster. I can only practice calligraphy every day, but there hasn't been a genius in years, causing his superiors to lose patience with him. This time, it was a direct death order. White River City must send talent to training camp this year. And the so-called training camp, as the name suggests, it is to send talented martial artists from all over the world to practice intensively. But it wasn't heaven. Training camp can be a place where talent can rise quickly, but there's more talent destroyed there. After coming back, I was depressed, and finally disappeared into the crowd. The president remembered that this year's training camp will be shortly after, but Shirakawa City hasn't sent any contestants for a long time, just when you're getting a headache. The secretary suddenly pushed open the door and entered in panic. Originally, the president was very unhappy, but the secretary answered first. A 15,000 combat power level 2 martial artist has appeared in the association. As soon as he said this, The president was a little stunned. After reacting, he grabbed the tablet from the secretary's hand. And that's the video of my test. Seeing what's on the tape, the president broke out in a cold sweat. He muttered that it was a perfect fist technique. There are no more than 10 in the world. But soon the president denied his idea. Because even if it's a perfect fist technique, it can only increase the combat power by twice. But I exceeded that standard by 10 times. Then the president saw that I was born into a normal family, and he laughed like crazy. Then he picked up the secretary, straight to the circle of love. Because at this moment, the president thought of a possibility. There are some people in martial arts. They seem ordinary, but they awaken extraordinary abilities. They're called gifted fighters. The president decided I was the case. He immediately changed his clothes and decided to visit in person. On the other hand, Ai Shuang, the daughter of the martial arts school, is looking for me. Send out the entire staff to gather information on me. Now half a day has passed. Finally got my name. Even family members and addresses are visible. Just when the employee thought Ai Shuang was going to seek revenge, Ai Shuang received a new message. Many forces have begun to mobilize. Ai Shuang immediately asked the staff to prepare gifts again. She wants to get ahead of us. And I don't know anything about any of this. And the first thing I did when I got home. Just can't wait to get started. I decided to take another look at my resume. As expected, along with AIE's panel, my life story changed again. This time my life is even better. He became a level 6 powerhouse, who lived to be 87 years old, and hopefully reached the 7th level. From the panel data no. I became a level 2 fighter at the age of 18, and caused a sensation in Baihe City. After that, under the recommendation of the president of the Martial Arts Association, entered the talent camp. Top 20 results. 5 years later, he retired as a lieutenant, and founded the Sacred Martial Arts School. 55-year-old failed to reach level 7 Grandmaster. He died at age 87 from a monster attack. And that's when I finally confirmed one thing. I can actually see the future indefinitely. But that's not enough. This change means nothing for the future. To reverse the 10,000-year trajectory of human development, I have to be stronger. I must reach the top of martial arts, to be at 10th grade. He even created a level 12 invincible existence. I need to work harder for this. But then, there was a knock on the door. My sister told me there was a visitor outside, but just now my sister called my brother again. As soon as you leave the room, I found 2 people sitting in the living room. The mother was nervous and wanted to introduce. The president has already stood up enthusiastically. It means I'm here for my test scores. I shook hands with the president calmly. My calm expression made the president appreciate it very much. Then his mother introduced Ai Shuang again. Although I don't know why she came to the house, but it's polite to welcome. Soon everyone was seated. The president went straight to the point. He reached out and took out my level 2 warrior certificate. It means that my combat power exceeds the level 2 category, so every month, according to the 3rd level martial arts subsidies. The parents who heard this were stunned. Then he collapsed on the sofa and thought he was dreaming. Even the genius sister on the side was shocked. But I didn't lose my mind about it. Reward if it. So what can I do for you, President? The president thought to himself, I'm only 18 years old. I can't believe you already have such deep shrewdness. I immediately stopped talking nonsense. Put your hand in your pocket. This is an invitation to the talent training camp in Dongning province. We'd like you to represent us. Ai Shuang's expression changed drastically as soon as she said that. She knows all too well the horrors of talent camp. The genius who was destroyed was her senior brother. And I'm young. There's no need to risk it. The president also said that there is a risk. Looking at the invitation from the president, I couldn't help but chuckle. Because I have already passed the information of 10,000 years later. I know the purpose of the president's visit, and even learned that I was in the top 20. So I grabbed the result invitations. Don't worry, President. This time I'm gonna bring you back to the nation. After watching the president leave, I turned my eyes to an Shuang, who was beside me, asked her why she came to see me. At this time an Shuang realized that my temperament is so outstanding. Just the look in my eyes made her want something. She coughed to ease the embarrassment. It directly indicates the nature of her trip, so she wants to invite me to be an honorary disciple of the martial arts school. Not only can you choose the class time freely, and enjoy the highest treatment of the martial arts school, in addition to taking 100,000 a month as salary, you don't even have to take on any obligations from the dojo. This is a huge benefit in normal times. But I saw through an Shuang's true colors at a glance. He wants to use my 18-year-old level 3 martial artist's trademark, pushing Red Leaf martial arts to a new level. But I thought about it, and refused an Shuang's invitation, because the so-called martial arts school teaching content doesn't mean anything to me. So I said I could only accept honorary members. Usually, I only go to Hongya Martial Arts School to test my combat strength. After a period of struggle, and Shuang had no choice but to agree to my conditions. But the Red Leaf School wants to buy out my reputation. I agreed to her request. He watched an Shuang leave. At this point, the family finally couldn't hold back their excitement. At this point, they all think it's a dream. Faced with a series of inquiries, I finally told you everything. But hiding the truth from the dream. A keen father depends on what he perceives. And you chose to support me in all my decisions, and gave me a reassuring affirmation. On the other hand, with the president's personal visit, White River City officials also issued an announcement, made me the pride of the city. But I didn't let my guard down. I'm already in the middle of Mount Lunghu, in the next city. It's like a lightning bolt running through the forest. I found that if you apply stellar explosions to movement, I'll be at least 5 times faster than anyone else. For this reason, I named this movement the Way to Heaven, because the blood-strengthening pill that was refined before has already been used up, and my body developed resistance. So I urgently need to find the ingredients for a new pill. Who knows that today's medicinal materials are not fully used, but I had to come out and find it myself. After days of searching, I stopped at the top of a mountain. Just as the sun rises, I want to be able to understand everything in the universe in just a few seconds. It's like centuries passed in my consciousness. I saw my body's stellar body training method automatically activated. Then he slapped out a fierce palm. And then I woke up. And I realized I had broken through. The blood gas got a qualitative leap. I am happy to once again transport the road to heaven. Soon we arrived at the foot of Guhu Mountain. Find herbal traders buy other materials. At this time, the medicine merchant is already waiting at the foot of the mountain, after confirming the quality of the herb. I intend to buy it at the price previously set. Who knew that the medicine merchant suddenly smiled? Not only did he ask me to double the price for his herbs, and you even want to sell me wild vegetables, but before I could say no, 3 figures walked out of the woods behind them. Look at their accustomed faces. This should be their business. I saw the herbalist approaching and threatening me. I advise you to buy all the herbs. We're serious level 1 fighters. Away from home. When it's time to recognize you, my eyes went cold. So you're going to buy and sell? The medicine dealer, who was pointed out, was also not embarrassed. Instead, he laughed hysterically, but before he could finish, I just slapped the wall next to me. Instantly, the hill made of stone cracked directly. Saw this scene. A few people who were still laughing were stunned on the spot. Then a demonic voice sounded. Well, in this case, is it time to admit defeat? Watching the rubble crumble in my hands, there was a sudden silence in the air. The next moment, with a plop, a few people knelt down directly and make sincere apologies to me. Let me take all the herbs for nothing. Suddenly I was impressed by several people. I thought they were all mouthy kings. I didn't know it was an experience. Finally, I took all the herbs without hesitation. After a day and a night's journey, I finally arrived at Dongning Province Talent Training Camp. The people next to me looked young, but I found out they all had fighter badges. Sure enough, There are still many geniuses in this world. And then I remembered that my fighter badge seemed to have been installed by my mother. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Just then an instructor came up to me, asked me what city I am a student in. I heard that I was introduced by the president of the White River Martial Arts Association. The eyes of the people around him suddenly became contemptuous. No one has come to White River City for years. I don't know how many things I've been secretly delivering. However, the instructor was slightly surprised after checking the list. This score is not an ordinary monster. Then the instructor told me to put down my salute. Go in with the Qingyuan people. But this behavior makes me suspicious. There's no report. There's no badge. Sure enough, as everyone entered the room, there was a vibration under my feet. It turned out that the door behind him was slowly closing. Everyone who didn't know why suddenly felt uneasy. Ask the instructor what the situation is. The instructor shouted for silence. Your mission is to walk to the exit of the corridor. You have to succeed to pass the entrance examination. If you fail, go home. The crowd was unhappy on the spot. What happened to the welcome ceremony turned into a test, and there's no hallway here. As soon as he finished speaking, the ground cracked open. Everyone was caught off guard. But everyone here is a level 1 warrior. The moment it falls, it's done. The first thing I did was look around. Sure enough, a steel corridor appeared ahead. I immediately released my spiritual power. In this age of imperfect spiritual training, my divine sense sees through the corridors. Found several shadows hidden in the corridor. Interesting. At this moment, a person beside him smiled scornfully. Looks like this year's exam is still boring. As soon as he said this, everyone around him became angry. I wanted him to stop pretending to be 13 on the spot. But then, he suddenly changed the subject. But this is talent camp. There must be a lot of traps in its entrance exam. We're all from the same city. Should stick together. There's just one extra person here. Why don't we ask him to help us explore? Just as he finished speaking, except for some female students, others laughed and agreed. And I sighed when I heard it. I didn't expect to hear a fart from them. Then he pushed him away. If you're not gonna go over there, get out of the way. Just when he thought I knew what I was doing. The contempt on my face was undisguised. The beast always walks alone. Only cattle and sheep flock together. His expression changed drastically as soon as he said this. Before he could finish, I stepped right on it. In a world where the mind is not perfect, my mind has seen through all traps. At this time, countless red balls keep bouncing off the wall, and then it starts spinning. Finally, it turned into a first-class shame. Lin Xiaoyu's expression changed when he saw this scene. Everyone present had just broken through to level 1. All of them put together, they don't stand a chance. But suddenly, he saw me motionless. I thought I was going to freak out. You are indeed a country bumpkin. You don't even know what's going on. And he threw a punch at me. But I watched you attack with a straight face. And all of a sudden, the dust rises all over the place. Wait until the smoke clears. But I stopped your attack with one hand. I didn't expect this to be the best I could do. I just raised my hand and lifted it. And then I put a little pressure on one hand. I'm ashamed that you broke up in my hands. Everyone was in disbelief. How can a backdoor have such strong combat power? Lin Xiaoyu suddenly laughed when he thought of something. We were almost fooled by this bumpkin. These machines are half finished. Otherwise, we don't stand a chance. And then, to test his hypothesis, just walk up to me alone. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Your head really fell off. Everyone's eyes lit up. Are these really half-finished products? Who knew that the shame of losing his head suddenly exploded? He punched Lin Xiaoyu's head. The next second, Lin Xiaoyu was embedded in the wall. This made Lin Xiaoyu instantly panic. He realized that these morons weren't first class at all. Instead, it reached the terrifying level 2 combat power. Everyone felt desperate when he said that. After all, they couldn't even beat a first-class criminal. On the other hand, I was bored. I can see the core of the machine directly through my divine sense. Just punch the core, and it'll be destroyed. It didn't take long for me to get to the end room. The instructor is looking at all the damaged ones with a look of shame. After all, they're all alloys. But before he could think, I saw a figure walk in. So you're the gatekeeper of level 2? Hope you won't let me down. Before the examiner denied it, I'm going straight up the ladder. He ran towards the instructor with the stellar body refining technique. Meanwhile, in the heart of the base, Lieutenant Colonel Dong Qingxue is looking intently at the screen. She is the examiner of this talent training camp. Facing peer inquiries, she rubbed her eyebrows helplessly. Only 8 warriors met her criteria this time. And then she sent out messages about the members. Most of them are strength and speed. And the only thing that made her happy, she discovered a level 2 female martial artist, and she's got a near-level psychic. After his companion heard this, he was also happy for Dong Qingxue. It's almost as talented as you were back then. However, Dong Qingxue's expression remained serious. There are still too few people with this talent. It's nice to have a partner tease someone else. Then he continued to look at the screen. Suddenly he saw a vision. And the next, he's so shocked, he spills his coffee. At this time, Dong Qingxue also saw the abnormality of her companion. I followed his gaze. What is this? What is this? On the other hand, the talented girl Charlene also ended the battle. And then, I can't wait to get to the finish line. Who knows, he just walked to the terminal room. And I saw all the examiners armed to the teeth are guarding one of the exam rooms. There was a fight in what was supposed to be an examiner's room. Charlene realized something was wrong. Then she decisively spread her divine sense out. At this time, there are 2 people in the room fighting. Charlene remembers there was no such thing as a test. Suddenly, on the other side, I sensed someone spying. He directly simulated the divine sense of a 10,000-year-old lost household in a dream and stared back. In an instant, a powerful pressure surged towards Charlene, and then her body started moving backwards. Calm down. She's shaking. It's like I just saw something horrible. At this moment, Dong Qingxue and the others finally arrived. She saw what happened to Charlene too. My partner just wanted to collect information about the room examiner. The door on the other side of the room was kicked open. Then I slowly walked out of the room. Seeing this, the examiners were relieved. Turns out it was just a student, but the next second, their faces are full of fear, because I was dragging the examiner's body. No matter how talented a student is, it's impossible for him to have such combat power. Dong Qingxue directly came forward to ask about my identity. I'll be honest. Shirakawa, Lu Sheng. After confirming that I was a student, the examiners became extremely excited. However, Dong Qingxue still has doubts about me. The next moment, countless linear spiritual forces emerged from her body, and then they started shooting at me. I understand she's probing my psychic powers, but I'm too strong for my physical body. Never reveal your mental strength again. I immediately stood where I was. Let the psychic force pass through me. Seeing this scene, Dong Qingxue sighed. Then let me go back to the dormitory to rest first. After I left, she pulled out my profile. When you see that I have 15 points of blood, but 15,000 combat power, even she felt that I was too evil. The only pity is that there is no spiritual power. Otherwise, I can bring him to practice. And then she named me and Charlene the top seed together. On the other hand, the first thing I did when I entered training camp is to go to the kitchen first and solve the problem of food and clothing. I didn't expect to meet Yang Yuan here. She told me there was a point system in training camp. You can earn points by passing the examination here. Points can be exchanged for items such as cultivation techniques and pills. At present, only 3 people in training camp have points. The first one is Chao Yong, who has the talent of stone skin. Charlene awakened psychic. Charlene happened to be passing by at the exact moment. When I heard someone talking about me, I turned around and looked over, but when she saw my face, the whole person was directly scared silly. Suddenly Yang Yuan told me another gossip. Rumor has it that there's a 4th person who cleared the test. I hear he's a raging lunatic. Not only did he blow up all the secondary traps with his bare hands, he even sent the examiner to the hospital. But this rumor is so outrageous that no one believes it. But when I heard it, I spat it out. If nothing else, that lunatic is me. Who knew that Yang Yuan, who was on the side, saw my reaction? Think I'm scared of the talent here? And then he comforted me not to be angry. Just then some instructors came up to us. After confirming my identity, you will speak directly. Since you damaged 18 machines during the exam, I'm sorry, and put the instructor in a coma. Now we need you to come with us. At this time, other people also noticed that this side turned around and looked, and I'm about to blow it up. Embarrassed, I can only say that I will cooperate. After saying hello to Yang Yuan, he left here with a few instructors. But I just left. The whole cafeteria in the back exploded. Everyone realized it wasn't a rumor. Yang Yuan's mind was blank. I was supposed to be a nobody, but I'm the crazy one. On the other hand, I followed the instructor to the command room. From Dong Qingshua's mouth, one machine costs more than 10 million, and I destroyed 18 of them. I was shocked when I heard that there was no money, but fortunately, the final negotiation result is that I don't have to pay compensation. Just when I was relieved, a few more people walked in at the door. It's this year's Talented Seeds. According to camp entry rules, as long as you pass the test, you can get points reward, 100 points per gold card. Points can be used to enter the training room and exchange food, but the function that most drives everyone, that is, 100 points can be exchanged for one instruction from the chief instructor. But at this time, I looked at the white card in my hand doubtfully. I thought it was a blank card with no points. If it wasn't for the chief instructor standing up for you, you owe me camp points for all the damage you've done. As soon as he said that, the others instantly changed their faces. The big guy walked right up to me. I thought training camp was about strength. I didn't expect it to be the same. Charlene was worried and warned. Don't you know what he did on the test? The big man snorted coldly at this. Of course we know what he did. Isn't it just spreading rumors and bribing classmates and instructors? After saying that, he directly activated his stone skin talent. I'm telling you, strength is everything here. On the other hand, Qin Xiaojun wanted to stand up and stop him, but Dong Qingxue stopped him. She wanted to see my real reaction. I'm still looking at the big guy calmly. In the face of his fierce attack, I reached out to the big guy, and it was a brain crash. At the same time, the Starburst Youth version is launched. Instantly, a terrifying force swept forward. The impact force even caused the space to produce rings of halo. Wait until the smoke clears. The big guy passed out a few hundred meters away. And the pink hair on the side instantly felt cold all over, and knocked out the world's top talent. But the instructor was not surprised to see this result. They knew I wasn't even half as good. But the pink hair that was supposed to pick on me, seeing this scene, I broke out in a cold sweat. I was too lazy to talk to him. He said faintly that he wanted to go back first. However, as soon as I reached the door, I was stopped by the chief instructor. First she asked me about my training plan, and then she suggested that I could use the points for her guidance. After all, I started with 1,000 points to squander, but I rejected her decisively, because I have more important things to do. Qin Xiaojun's interest was piqued. What's more important than the guidance of the chief instructor? On the other hand, Charlene and Pink Hair are also nervously waiting for my answer. Is it some unique training method? I can only answer truthfully when I see the expectant eyes of the crowd. I'm going back to bed. Everyone was stunned. Qin Xiaojun laughed crazily, thinking I had secrets to keep from them. But when they turned on the cameras, I found out that I really went back to the dormitory to rest. Dong Qingxue immediately hated iron for failing to become steel when she saw this. Her original idea was to use me as a sharpening stone, trying to make other people grow up fast under pressure. But Qin Xiaojun had a different view. He thinks the grindstone is too strong and will wear out the knife. At this time, Dong Qingxue suddenly mentioned her student days. There was once a king who overpowered everyone in their class, also gifted in power. And in the early stage, there were tens of thousands of combat effectiveness. But as you grow, The power talent bonus decreases. Eventually, the king became a short-lived hooligan. Qin Shaojun immediately understood what Dong Qingxue meant. Maybe I'm just another epiphyllum. But they never thought about it. I'm not a strength talent at all. On the other hand, when I got back to my dorm, I immediately went into a dream, then asked AI to summon her own life history. Soon my personal panel appeared. Sure enough, my message changed again. Not only did his strength reach the level 7 Grandmaster realm, I'll live to be 156 years old. And as my historical rating rises, my access has finally been opened up further. I just found out that there are advanced chapters in the 3 great cultivation methods. Just as I was about to leave, found a secret manual added to the cultivation method menu. After checking, I found that this is actually a complete cultivation method. God shines on the king, created by Duan Yifeng, a level 11 expert of the Martial Alliance. And then I tested myself. Decided to challenge the previous level 6 bereavement. I saw the mortar punch me, but I used to block it with my hand. But the power of the zombies woke me up instantly. In the face of bereavement, another attack. Without a word, I reached out and grabbed his wrist, and then quickly grabbed the iron bar next to it, and thrust it into the victim's thigh. During this time, my star explodes and condenses rapidly. Finally, 10 times the outbreak solved the bereavement. As the zombies fall, a black mist started pouring into my body. All of the zombies' martial arts experiences were integrated into my mind. It's hard for humans to master a martial art in their lifetime, but I'm able to combine the experiences of countless people. As long as I keep challenging and absorbing, I'll be able to do everything right. And I've decided on my own path in this moment. That's my thing. Shirkwan Wudao. Not only did you obtain the advanced chapters of the 3 top cultivation techniques, he also learned a new top-tier 11th level technique, God's Word. This is a book designed specifically for mentalists. It contains not only spiritual combat skills, and you can build another body out of your mind. And I just learned the first stage. The competition directly increased my blood gas by dozens of times, but I feel a lot of pressure to be strong. Looking out at this once powerful era. In the end, they can't stop human civilization from dying. And now I'm at level 7, and I can't rest. So I decided to retreat in my dream. And so a month passed. Training room. Charlene is controlling her mental powers. Just then, countless spheres flew toward her from the wall. Critical moment. Suddenly several purple lights suddenly appeared. The next second, they'll knock out all the balls. Closer look, those purple lights are strange weapons. This is the spiritual power that only a level 1 psychic has. Just then the training room door opened. It was the chief instructor of the training camp, Dong Qingxue. A month ago, Xiao Lin exchanged points for Dong Qingxue's guidance. Charlene, who had successfully broken through, was about to thank Dong Qingxue. But at this moment, Dong Qingxue's face was serious, because she saw that Charlene had a huge mental demon. Charlene's body began to tremble unconsciously. At the same time, the terrifying gaze in my mind appeared again. She weakly asked the instructor if there was a solution. Dong Qingxue immediately said that the method was very simple, since you can't solve your demons. Who knew that Charlene was almost scared to tears when she said this? Dong Qingxue saw this, but she was somewhat puzzled, because at the rate Charlene's growing up, he deserves to be the strongest. Hearing this, Charlene's heart also wavered. I heard the guy's been pretty decadent lately. If he doesn't move forward, maybe I can really beat him. On the other hand, Yang Yuan is cleaning up in the gym. After all, ordinary students can only earn points by working. But at that moment, there was a loud noise. The big guy is challenging quadruple gravity. You know, most cadets these days, it's hard to resist even 1 gravity. The friend next to him suddenly found Yang Yuan. I heard that genius in your city sleeps every day. Do you have any idea how many times gravity he can fight right now? Yang Yuan said that he did not know. But the friend continued, I've heard that strength talents slowly lose their edge. He hid at his dorm the next day. I guess he's afraid to go out now. Yang Yuan thinks I'm not that kind of person, but now she thinks I'm decadent too. Meanwhile, in the boys' dormitory, I finally woke up after a month of training in my dream. At this point, I have forgotten how much stronger I am. The smell on his body is uncontrollable and spills out. To test the results of a month's practice, it's time for me to test my skills. On the other hand, the big guy worked hard every day after I beat him, and now it's capable of sustaining triple gravity for 4 minutes. Looking at all these adoring fans, the big guy was proud of himself. But secretly, he's been able to get into quadruple gravity. But at this moment, he touched his aching forehead. Then I turned around and asked my leg about my recent situation. The leg boy immediately looked down upon it. He's still the same. He doesn't go out or cultivate. Every day, besides eating, I daydream. The big guy also had a mocking look on his face when he heard this. You don't have to pay attention to this proud guy anymore. I'm afraid he's wasted. Just then, a figure suddenly appeared in front of the big man, but in the next instant, the figure was already behind him. That's exactly what I learned this month about Breath of the Wind. The big guy who reacted was shocked and immediately turned around to look, and when he found out it was me, he immediately laughed. But I ignored him. 3 hours of double gravity was selected directly on the screen, and then walked right into the gravity room. The big guy next to me saw that I wasn't warming up, so he walked in. He shook his head and laughed. I'm too arrogant. After all, the pressure inside and outside the gravity chamber is different. If you go in there without warming up, you'll definitely cause internal bleeding. But then everyone gradually realized that something was wrong, because the instruments in the room indicate that gravity is on. But I didn't react at all in the gravity room. The big guy's face turned ugly when he thought of something, but before they could think, in the room, I suddenly threw a punch. And then he did radio gymnastics in the gravity room. What's even more outrageous is that my fist actually caused an ear-piercing sound. All of a sudden, other melon eaters noticed something strange here. But when they saw that the sound came from the gravity room, they were dumbfounded. You know, they're in a gravity room. It's hard to move even a little. And then I stopped. And then again to the control panel in the room. Just when everyone thought I was going to turn off gravity, a piercing noise suddenly came from the gravity room. And then the big guy looks at the room, and he looks into his pocket. I saw that the room showed that quadruple gravity was activated, and at 4 times gravity, I finally reacted. I suddenly got down on one knee and slapped the ground, just when everyone was gloating that I couldn't hold on. The big guy looks like he's seen a ghost, because one of my hands has become 2 fingers. On the other hand, Charlene, who had just finished training, also came to the gravity chamber. Suddenly, I noticed a cry of surprise coming from one direction. I turned around and saw a group of people looking in horror at a gravity chamber. Charlene saw 4 times gravity and curiously went up. And then he saw this crazy scene. I'm in quadruple gravity. Do push-ups with 2 fingers. In an instant, Charlene's newly established confidence shattered again. On the other hand, after doing hundreds of push-ups, again, I feel almost familiar with quadruple gravity. And then I flipped over, and I went back to the control panel. Then decisively pressed the plus sign next to gravity. This operation immediately caused the melons to scream again. The big guy on the other side was so scared that he sat on the ground. How can he be so strong after sleeping for 2 months? I thought I was past the sleeping rabbit. I didn't know I was still a turtle under a cliff. At the same time, my eyes lit up slightly under 5 times gravity. Breath of Earth, switching. On the other side, in the surveillance room, Qin Xiaojun found Dong Qingxue. Turns out it was the stress of training camp, which led to a few more cadets dropping out today. After all, training camp brings together the best talent in the world. Any day of slacking off could end up at the bottom. A lot of pampered cadets just can't handle it. At this moment, Qin Xiaojun noticed a new message appearing on the screen. The gravity chamber history has been refreshed. But when he saw who broke the record, he froze. Dong Qingxue also looked over in confusion. The next moment, the cup in Dong Qingxue's hand was crushed, but before she could recover, the screen sent another message. Dong Qingxue immediately stood up in shock. Because the message is still Lu Sheng has refreshed the gravity chamber history record. At the same time, on the other side, I've turned on 8 Gs. Such a great pressure makes my blood become extremely frozen. Everyone out there already knows I'm at my limit. But then I closed my eyes. And then, there's this vibrating sound coming from my heart. In fact, I've not only learned the breath of the earth this month, he also comprehended the heart construction of the Divine Light King Sutra. Under intense pressure, I finally broke through to the final step, and then my heart started beating like crazy. And then a horrible aura merged into my whole body. Suddenly I felt like my body was so light. I found that just remodeling the heart part, the competition directly raised a lot of blood essence, and I'm not going to hide it anymore. And with everyone watching in horror, I went back to the control center. Everyone thought that this time it should stop. The next moment, there's a crack. The glass in the gravity room started to crack. Then everyone outside fell to their knees with a thud. Just when no one understands what's going on, the big guy who thought of something lost his mind. Because there's only one way gravity can escape. And sure enough, the value displayed on the screen is exactly 10 times gravity. And inside the room, I was directly pressed to the ground. At this moment, I repeatedly carry a mountain. All the bones in my body are even whining. At this moment, I don't say I moved at all. Even staying awake requires me to do my best. In the vague dream, the desperate future keeps emerging. I understand that the only way to keep pushing the envelope, to give the planet a chance for the future. At this moment, my will became very firm. I felt like my body was reborn again. Now, looking at me, calm and collected under 10 times gravity, an idea flashed through everyone's mind. The Demon King Lu Sheng has returned, and the protective glass breaks under this gravity. A terrible gravity swept out of the room. But it's just a little bit of power that's released. The competition made all the students suffocate. Soon, as the doors to the gravity chamber slowly opened, I came out of the room sweating. Look at the crowd outside the door. And there's nothing inside me. But that's when a clean towel suddenly appeared in front of me. I saw a red-cheeked girl looking at me. Here's your towel. I quickly took it, thanks. I didn't expect to get a little fangirl when I tested my strength, and then I wiped my sweat off. I checked the results on the monitor. I just turned on my phone, and a message popped up. A reward for breaking a record? As the gravity chamber leaderboard appears, the system message came again. You've been rewarded with record-breaking points. As soon as he said that, everyone around him was instantly stunned. You know, they usually score in single digits. And while I'm surprised at the number of points awarded, but I didn't really care. After all, I have the points. It's only for dinner, but until then, I've decided to keep testing. As I took another step, a path diverged from the crowd like a tide. Everyone was delighted to discover my destination. In the spirit of joining in the fun, I followed up again, but I don't know that Yang Yuan on the other side has been stunned. Look at me above all others. He seemed to see a tiger in the forest. And behind him are all the beasts. At this time, the girl on the side reacted. Isn't he a strength-type talent? How do you break the record for defensive gravity chambers? Yang Yuan was shocked. Because she found out I was headed in the right direction. In the body room, cadets need to choose a level and constantly avoid the machine ray. The more rays avoided, the higher the completion. At this time, the speed talent red hair has just completed the test. The screen shows 87 for stage 2. More than 52% of trainers. And this ranking connects the national system. That means he's outnumbered half of the world's warriors. He's confident that at his age, with his strength, I'm sure I'll be worshipped by the other cadets when I get out. Just when he was considering whether to take in a little brother, but he found that there was nothing outside the training room. Before he knew what was going on. However, it was depressing to find that the opposite side was actually crowded with dents. The stranger thing was, even Dong Qingxue and Instructor Qin were looking at the other side. His first reaction was that there was an instructor demonstrating. Then he pulled over a cadet and asked what was going on. The student said he was watching Lu Xing take the test. The red-haired man immediately laughed when he heard this. You don't think that sleeping god can beat my record, do you? Hearing this, the students looked at him as if he was a fool. What are you? She asked coldly, but as soon as he finished speaking, there was a loud noise in the training room ahead. Redhair looked at it and immediately peed. All transmitters in the body room are at full power. And I understood the rules of the test. With a purple flash in my eyes, a surge of mental energy swept through every corner in an instant. At the same time, there's a million laser probes on the wall shooting straight at me. And all of a sudden, a dense array of rays fills the entire space. But I'm flying through countless rays. I can dodge even more attacks. However, at this moment, Dong Qingxue discovered that something was wrong, because it's my first test. But his body movements were extremely familiar, and the exaggeration is that I didn't look behind me. But it's easy to dodge an attack from behind. It's like I can predict the trajectory of an attack in advance. Just then, Dong Qingxue suddenly thought of a ridiculous possibility. At this moment, I am walking through the body training room with a relaxed face. The screen shows that the completion of the second stage is 62%. But the students outside were not happy to see this behind the scenes. I feel like I can do it myself. But Qin Xiaojun smiled when he heard that. He knew my ease was just a facade, because he found out that my movements were perfect. If anyone else comes, they won't last another second. As my speed increases, the system indicates that the second stage of the movement test has been successfully passed. Red Hair was directly scared after seeing it, doubting life, because he can't even do that with his speed talent. But I didn't think I was going to end it right now. It's the third phase. Countless balls popped out of the fog. It's like a giant raindrop filling up the whole space in an instant. Everyone who saw this scene was dumbfounded on the spot. At this point, you know you can't dodge without trying. But that's not the only despair. The laser at my feet suddenly activated. It's a direct barrier, limiting my movement. And yet, I was intrigued by this scene. Just as countless balls flew in front of me. And the next minute, I'm jumping out. However, Qin Xiaojun noticed something. This is actually the movement technique of the subtle realm, you know, even with his speed talent. And it wasn't until he was 22 that he reached that level, but I got there at 18. On the other hand, as the completion level continues to increase, I'm starting to struggle a little bit. But that's not my limit. As a surge of energy flowed through me, my breath of the wind switched instantly. And this time, everyone out there realized I just disappeared. But Qin Xiaojun knew. It's because I'm too fast to keep up with the naked eye. And now my body has transformed into a green lightning bolt. The completion rate of the trial instantly reached 62. But before anyone could react, the next second, all the test equipment went out. My speed is too fast, so the test is completed in an instant. At this moment, even Qin Xiaojun's eyes widened, and then he saw me in the body room doing recovery moves. Qin Xiaojun decided to turn around and leave. Looks like his last outburst was pretty exhausting. But at this moment, Dong Qingxue suddenly stopped him. Then Dong Qingxue looked at the body technique room with a solemn expression. I summoned the control panel again in the movement room. Then the system screen pops up again. Stage 4. Body training begins. I saw countless spherical things slowly rising into the sky. Then 4 pillars of light emerge around the sphere, as the light from each sphere interweaves. Finally, the competition divided the area into blocks. Everyone who saw this scene immediately went numb. It's not something a human can avoid. But in just a few seconds, I actually achieved 30% completion directly. But at this moment, Qin Xiaojun's face was solemn. Mutter finally reached this intensity. Look at the dense radiation around you. At this point, my breath of the wind has reached its limit, but I soon made up my mind. Suddenly, a strange force was activated by me. In an instant, the Shining Pluto Sutra was activated at full power by me. I pushed my hands out. Suddenly a black enchantment began to spread with me as the center. This is the ability of a psychic to reach level 3. At this time, I feel as if time has been lengthened in the enchantment. A laser that was just elusive. And now it's like I'm standing still, and I'm just going to move around. Dong Qingxue, who didn't know what was going on outside, saw this scene, and immediately felt her scalp go numb. Next moment, the glass in the body room doesn't seem to be able to withstand this kind of impact. Once again, cracks appear. And for that, she took decisive action. A terrifying mental force gushed out of her body in an instant. In Qin Shijuan's incredible self-light, Dong Qingxue instantly inserted her finger into the sword. He just summoned his avatar and charged at me. In the meantime, I'm concentrating on avoiding the rays inside the body room. Who would have thought that a giant hand of psychic power would come at me? But I soon understood what was going on. Then, he condensed his spiritual energy into a sword in an instant. The moment my spiritual power approached, I struck hard. The competition directly scattered the condensed spiritual avatar on the spot. And the price is a shot to the heart of Dong Qingxue, who is outdoors. I'm a little shaky and I'm shaking. What follows is a mental backlash caused by the destruction of the avatar. But it wasn't just that she was shocked. It's that my mental strength may have surpassed her own. On the other side, I smiled slightly in the body room. After all, Dong Qingxue's behavior has already disturbed me. Plus, my bonus is almost at its limit. With that in mind, I'm just gonna stand there, let the rays go straight through my chest. At this time, the system message sounded in time. The completion of the fourth stage of this movement is 56. More than 97% of the country's martial artists. As soon as this information came out, the students went crazy on the spot, because it's not something students can do anymore. But I am not satisfied with this result. After all, 3% of the world is better than me. There are at least hundreds of millions of people. And what I want to do is be number one, even beyond the first breakthrough to the limits of this world. Just when I was thinking about how to improve myself, Dong Qingxue and Qin Xiaojun clapped as they walked over, and asked me which training room I was going to next. But to their expectant eyes, I said I wasn't going anywhere, because today's cafeteria information indicates that there is a new product online. I'm gonna go get my fill first. Hearing this, Qin Xiaojun burst out laughing, but the rest of us are speechless. Soon 3 hours passed. After dinner, I came to the instructor's office again. Qin Xiaojun said bluntly that he wanted to test my strength this time. And by the way, there's something you want to discuss with me. Then Dong Qingxue took out a vitality measuring needle and said, I should have known that this device could measure blood gases, but I was embarrassed to hear it. The equipment in the dormitory cannot penetrate his body at all. However, Qin Xiaojun looked like he had expected it, because this device is only useful for martial artists below level 3. Helpless, Dong Qingxue took out a golden instrument again. This is a blood-drawing needle specially prepared for level 5 experts. That should be enough for you. I reached out my hand. Sure enough, a level 5 instrument easily pierced my body. As blood appeared on the instrument, a display screen projected out of thin air. The screen shows 24 blood gas level 3 martial artists. Dong Qingxue and Qin Xiaojun both took a cold breath. Such a young level 3 fighter is hard to come by in 100 years. Then Qin Xiaojun pointed to the puppet in front of him. Let me test my strength. At this point, I thought about the consequences, decided to go all out and see what he really was. In an instant, I switched the technique to breath of fire. Instantly, a terrifying flame burst out of my body. Next moment, perfect 8-time stellar fist was instantly activated by me. As the instrument went boom, the screen shows 270,000 level 4 fighters. Seeing this, Qin Xiaojun suddenly laughed unconsciously. A level 5 martial artist actually displayed the combat strength of a level 5 martial artist. And then he came back, and he kept patting me on the shoulder. It means I can do whatever I want in the future. However, just as I was about to leave, Dong Qingxue stopped me. Then he took out a pale yellow strange crystal. Let me just touch it with my hand. You can test your mental strength level. She touched the crystal with her hand. Instantly, the screen displays 143 points of mental strength. I was immediately interested. After all, This is the first time I've seen this in real life. As I pour my psychic power into the crystal, a more intense light suddenly appeared. But Dong Qingxue suddenly shouted impossible after seeing the scene. The screen shows that my mental strength is 113. And the purity of spiritual power reached 20 points, if mental strength 113 is normal. But my 20-point purity is a qualitative leap. It's like folding and compressing a regular towel, and eventually turn him into a coin. And even if it's a spirit genius as strong as Dong Qingxue, her current spiritual purity is only around 4 points. Every 0.1 increase requires 2 years of painstaking cultivation, but now I'm more than 5 times as pure. And to top it off, I'm only 18. But this number is already in the non-human category. Even Qin Shaojun couldn't hide his excitement. The words of praise kept coming back. However, it was also a second. He was punched by Dong Qingxue's fist. He ignored Qin Shaojun's emotive expression. Dong Qingxue directly asked the question in her heart, asking if I had a teacher. I hesitated and nodded. Confirmed my claim that I had a teacher, and frankly speaking, my spiritual cultivation method is from the teacher, although the teacher is not born yet. On the other hand, Dong Qingxue was obviously relieved. There is indeed a teacher to teach. If it's all about talent, it's that good. Then she's really going to fall into self-doubt. But Dong Qingxue still did not give up. Then he asked me how long it had been since my gift had awakened. Hearing this, I touched my chin. I remember. Yeah, less than 3 months. Dong Qingxue and Qin Shaojun opened their eyes wide at the same time. It's like there's too much information to react to. Then Dong Qingxue revealed an awkward smile. You've reached level 3. A monster even in the Psychiatrist Association. It turns out that it's a system independent of the Martial Arts Association, because even if the population of martial artists is huge, but less than 1% of the people who awaken psychic talents. As she spoke, Dong Qingxue untied her collar, and then he took a purple pendant off his neck and said, usually, the more distractions people have, the less spiritual purity they have. Your teacher didn't tell you. I guess it's afraid it'll affect your practice. But I think a genius like you should join the association for more resources. And then she gave me the necklace, and told me I could use it to join the association. Then Dong Qingxue curiously asked me who my teacher was. I'll be honest. I've never actually seen a teacher before, and every time the way of practice is very mysterious. Dong Qingxue understood. After all, if other forces had a genius like me, it's already been treated like gold. But my teacher let me do whatever I wanted out there. So that's a very high-profile person. At this moment, Qin Shaojun walked over with a card. To be honest, this is the $5 million reward we applied for you. Although the training is not over yet, but you didn't run for first place. And now my eyes are drawn to that card. I didn't expect the first place to have a 5 million reward, but it wasn't just that shocked me. Qin Shaojun continued. In fact, most of our military expenditure is spent on your food. You've eaten at least 7 or 8 million these days alone. After hearing this, I was shocked. I didn't know the food was so expensive. At this time, Dong Qingxue also stood up and solemnly said, this money is just a small amount of sincerity from our Eastern Military Region. I'm looking for you today to invite you to join the Eastern Military Command. I know a martial arts genius like you. I'm sure you don't want to be in your comfort zone. Only by casting a sword with iron and blood can we achieve true sharpness. So I hope when the time comes, when you choose the military district, to give priority to our Eastern Military Region. I'll tell you another little secret. The girls in our east side are the most beautiful in the country. Even the figure is the best in the country. These words immediately made Dong Qingxue blush. The next, he's blown away by a mental punch. Then Dong Qingxue opened her mouth while controlling her spiritual power. There's one last thing. We have decided that you will represent the talented training camp of Dongning Province to participate in this Eastern Province Morning Star selection. I was surprised to hear that. I've never heard of a Morning Star. It turned out that it was an annual selection held throughout the Eastern Province, and only one person gets a star every year. And the one who becomes a general star will have the potential to become a future master. Before he could finish, I said firmly, I promise. Some things are inevitable. Then I'll be the spark that saves the day. Qin Xiaojun looked certain when he heard that. And if you can't be one, then I can't think of anyone else in Dongning Province who can become, and I said yes for other reasons. That's what a big province can offer. At this moment, Dong Qingxue walked over. Tell me, Qiming, there's still a few months to go before the creative tryout, not until after camp. That means you can prepare for the college entrance exam during this time, even though you have the ability to choose any university. My heart stirred when I heard that. Does that mean I can leave camp now? After getting a definite answer, I walked out without looking back. This scene made the two people in the office look helpless. I didn't expect that I, Dong Qingxue, would one day admire others' talents, but he's not like us. A gift like that makes him extraordinary. I'm sure this will be his time. After coming out of training camp, I rushed to the White River City Fighters Association as soon as possible, due to the short time left. I quickly followed my memory to the president's office. But before I could get close, there was a roar from the reception room in front. I followed the sound and looked over, but I saw the secretary of the president at the door. When she saw me, she immediately greeted me awkwardly, and I pointed to the room to ask about it. Who knew that the secretary was anxious and did not speak, then opened the door directly. Sign me in first. Seeing this, I also curiously walked in with the file, and the secretary followed me, with a worried look on her face. There were two people in the room. An old man in a suit saw me and stood up. And the president is sitting on the couch, depressed. Soon the old man came to me and kept looking at me, laughing. This must be the top genius of White River City. As he spoke, he suddenly raised an eyebrow at the president. Looks good. But compared to my granddaughter, it's a long way off. Who knew that the president who heard this did not refute? It just gets more depressing. Then I took out the photos on my mobile phone screensaver to show off, and the person above is actually Charlene, who was scared out of her mind by me. So this old man is Charlene's grandfather. But at this time, Xiao Lao, who did not know it, was still comforting me. After all, there are many people worse than their granddaughters. However, the president at the side was so angry that he crushed the cup directly, and then he asked me angrily why I was suddenly back. I just realized that, and handed over the file. This is what instructor Dong Qingxue from the training camp asked me to bring back. They said they would approve it here. But the old Xiao next to me looked at me suspiciously. After all, only people who get fired usually bring back files. Thinking of this, old Xia suddenly felt a little gloating, asking if I got into trouble at training camp. Now we have to find Lao Xiao, the referee, to take the blame. Before he could finish, the president grabbed my file. At this moment, his psychology also has some bad premonitions, so he tore open the folder. But when he saw what was on it, he opened his eyes wide. The president silently put the information back into the folder. What else does Elder Xiao want to say? But I didn't expect the president to suddenly shout, "You've broken through to level 3 warrior, and I'm pretty cool about it. Actually, I reached it a month ago. Chief instructor says military district has certification, but I still need to get it back and stamp it for you." The president laughed from ear to ear when he heard this. He was about to get my stamp. Who knew that the document was suddenly taken away by Xiao Lao? I saw Xiao Lao's head sweating as he compared it. Don't change, come on, when he sees I'm only 18 years old and a level 3 fighter with 270,000 combat power. His first reaction was that I faked the information. But the president suddenly took back my file. Then he pointed to the steel seal of the Eastern Military Region. The meaning is self-evident. But until now, Xiao Lao still refuses to believe it. How does someone who was eliminated early have 270,000 combat power? I sighed when I heard that. I never said I was eliminated. In order to make Xiao Lao completely give up, I'll ask the president to call Dong Qingxue directly. let Dong Qingxue verify the authenticity in person, facing Xiao Lao's paranoid self-light. The president turned around and turned on the video call. Soon Dong Qingxue's figure appeared on the screen. Seeing this, Xiao Lao has already shrunk into a ball. I've got 9 points of confidence in my information. At this moment, Xiao Lin also heard Grandpa's voice. And then I went into the screen and looked at it. The next second, Charlene was given 10 sets of radio gymnastics by Dong Qingxue. At this time, the president smiled and said, "He's gonna have my file ready in no time." Dong Qingxue nodded. After all, in a month, he will represent the entire Dongning province to participate in the global Morning Star selection. It's better to finish these trifles as soon as possible, and he's graduated top of his class. You don't have to come to camp anymore. This series of messages makes the president's brain instantly rock machine. When he reacted, he was instantly refreshed. The decadent look just now is no longer indifferent. At this time, Xiao Lao also understood. So the monster Charlene used to talk about was me in White River City. At the same time, the president on the other side was about to hang up, but Dong Qingxue suddenly spoke again. So it's my spiritual weapon. The main ingredients are ready. I can buy the rest online myself. As the video hangs up, the president looked at me again in disbelief. Because you can't use a mental weapon until you've reached a mental level. Although I don't understand why I have mental strength, but the president is happy with my talent. On the other hand, Xiao Lao on the other side. Now I'm twice as surprised as before. Soon, under the leadership of the president, I went through all the formalities in just an hour. At this time, the driver also saw the happiness of the president. I thought I was related to the president. I said it lightly, but the president was actually quite polite to everyone who knew that at this moment. The driver suddenly braked to a halt.